Evolution 2. This is 2. Like, let's stop acting like we ain't do this before. And it's your boy Icon with the wrestling, another wrestling PLE review for you. This is the third one of the weekend. This entire weekend I did reviews for Superman, the Superman movie, Great American Bash for NXT, Saturday Night's Main Event, and now we're going to conclude this with Women's Evolution. Jesus Christ, I'm tired. Before we get started, hit that notification bell, like it or subscribe. Check out my other videos all over social media, ones that I just mentioned, and let's kick this off. So, no pre-show match, and there's not a lot of matches. Like, I'm a little disappointed with how, the show was kind of put together, because I feel like Women's Evolution, this should be like the WrestleMania of like women's wrestling. And there's only like 6 matches, like 6 or 7 matches. Like, they're treating it like an old NXT takeover. We're not even getting like all the women represented, because Callie Armstrong should be defending the Evolve Women's Championship on this pay-per-view. Even if you want to talk about, LFG, some of the people from LFG should be in the Battle Royal. Like, where's the beautiful, the talented Tatiana Dumas? Like, where's she at? Like, can we get her in the ring? Like, there were so many, like TNA, like what, like Masha Slamovich, they have a working relationship with TNA, and like Masha Slamovich could have defended the TNA championship here at this pay-per-view tonight. I hope the show ends up being a success. Like, I hope the ticket sales, end up being good enough, and I hope the reaction from the fans after this is big enough to the point where they do a third one, and they make it a little bigger and get more people involved. One thing that they did do during the pre-show that I thought was actually really cool, they highlighted the 2 female referees, Jessica Carr and Daphne. The two of them, it showed like, how they started and, where they came from and what struggles they went to become, and, like basically the only 2 female referees like in the business. And it's weird now because I feel like I see them more than I see the male referees. Like, I see the 2 of them all the time, and, like, kudos to them. Like, I'm a huge fan of, I'm a huge fan of both of theirs, and the video package they put together for the 2 of them was actually really cool. So definitely looking forward to this particular pay-per-view. Not looking forward to the main event, because they talked about, since they keep harping on the fact that Rhea Ripley's never beaten Io Sky, it's basically a foregone conclusion that Rhea Ripley is going to beat Io Sky. So I feel Stephanie Valkyrie, I feel like she's the pick to win the women's battle royal. It's going to come down to her and Nikki Bella, and aside from Naomi versus Jade Cargill, no black women are going to do anything extravagant, like extraordinary tonight, because like this isn't the black women's day to shine. Like all the women of color that I even cheer for, like the Kalani Jordans, the Lash Legends, like the Jada Parkers, they're all in the battle royal, and we know they're not going to win like an NXT girl's not going to win the battle royal, and all the black women on the main roster are basically in that one match with Jade and with Naomi. So yeah, so let's kick it off. Let's talk about and review and watch some Women's Evolution, and we'll kick this off with the first match. So the show actually starts with Stephanie McMahon. It was good to see Stephanie McMahon in the heezy for sheezy. I thought she was going to be on commentary. Michael Cole being on the show. Michael Cole doing commentary on an all-women's pay-per-view kind of like was like the darkest cloud of the whole thing for me. But Stephanie said that the match she was looking forward to was Jade, Bianca, Naomi, and myself as well. So the actual pay-per-view starts with the Women's Intercontinental Championship, which is Becky Lynch versus Lyra Valkyria versus Bayley. And it's good to start with like real women's wrestling. A lot of people are saying that Lyra didn't deserve to be there, but the thing that's funny about it, when the match started, the crowd was going like crazy. The crowd was going wild. They were cheering and everything. And Lyra was legitimately looking around like she was scared of like the crowd noise. Like, she's just like, why are all these people cheering? Like, she's never heard that before in her life, which is funny. But it was a good back and forth. And, like the 3 of them, like, as they say in the wrestling business, they laid their shit in. Like, it was very aggressive. It was very violent. Like, it was very tough. A lot of back and forth. Like they didn't get a "this is awesome" chant. They got a women's wrestling chant. And that was really cool to see, because, and again, like, people saying that Lyra doesn't deserve to be there. But, I mean, and there might be some truth to that. If it wasn't for, her tie-ins with Becky Lynch, let's be real, Lyra probably would have been in the Battle Royal. But, but she proved why she deserved to be in that mix. She proved why she deserved to be in that spotlight. And she had one hell of a performance. And it was actually a nifty finish in the end where, like Lyra had rolled up Bayley. Bayley ended up rolling up Lyra. And then, because, she had her dad, like, Bailey had Lyra down, and then she was kind of like, you know, like the Rhea Ripley pin where it looked like she's kind of like doing her. And then Becky came out of nowhere and like rolled off her back into a backslide, and she got Bailey with the backslide, and she got the 1-2-3. So the man, Becky Lynch, you know, she's retained the Women's Intercontinental Championship. And here's hoping that Julia can bring that sort of excitement to the Women's United States Championship. But right now, there is, as Gunther would say, honor and prestige on the Women's Intercontinental Championship. So kudos to all three women involved for having a great kickoff, you know, to a great, you know, to this great pay-per-view, you know, doing it right, doing it the way it should be done. And we look forward to the next match coming up. So the next match was NXT time. Time for some NXT action. Jordynne Grace fighting Jacy Jayne for the NXT Women's Championship. And earlier, Blake Monroe, like Jordynne Grace asked Blake Monroe if she could be in her corner. And I was like, why? I was like, why? We don't need more blondes. Like this girl looks like Tiffany Stratton, who looks like Maurice, who looks like Trish Stratus. I'm just like, I'm sick of this blonde shit. And it's like we already had the weird pairing of Zara and Sol Ruca. I don't need Jordynne Grace and like Blake Monroe. But in the end, she actually turned out to do something worthwhile, something entertaining, because during the match, while Jacy Jayne actually put on a good match. Like, I was happy for Fatal Influence because they shined in this particular moment, and you know, I was happy to see them get that stage for all the work that they put in. And towards the end of this match, like the crowd, like half the crowd knew who they were, and the other half didn't know who everyone was. But towards the end of the match, there was a moment where Fatal Influence, they tried to cheat, and they introduced the championship. They introduced the women's championship to try to, like, you know, hit Jordynne Grace when the referee wasn't looking. Blake Monroe ended up beating up, you know, Fatal Influence, and she ended up taking the belt from them because they were trying to use the belt to cheat. Then when Jacy Jayne threw Jordynne Grace up against the ropes, Blake Monroe hit Jordynne Grace with the belt. Thank God, because I hated Blake. I'm still not a fan of Blake Monroe, but I feel like I'll probably like her better as a heel. So, and because Fatal Influence, they're supposed to be like the young, sexy, girly, you know, like group or whatever. I mean, she fits in with that group perfectly. I don't know if she's going to join the group, but I don't know if she's going to be a part of Fatal Influence, whatever the case may be. But definitely Blake Monroe, like I said, I still don't like her. I still don't care about her. But now that she's a heel, I'm going to pay attention to her now. And hopefully she can win me over. Like, she can win me over. And, you know, it sucks for Jordynne Grace. But I don't even, the thing is, I feel like when Jordynne Grace finally wins the heavyweight championship, it's going to be at Stand and Deliver. But then I'm not even 100% sure if she's going to be on the roster that long, because Jordynne Grace seems like someone that deserves to be on the main roster. So either she'll make a main roster appearance soon, or she'll just be chasing that championship until Stand and Deliver. But kudos to Jacy Jayne, the quote-unquote most beatable NXT Women's Champion, because if she's the most beatable champion, why she still got the belt? Like, happy to see her with the belt. And apparently she's going to fight Masha Slamovich at TNA for a winner-takes-all match. And I feel like Masha Slamovich has to beat Jacy Jayne because of the partnership between NXT and TNA. TNA allowed an NXT wrestler, Trick Williams, to win their heavyweight championship. So WWE has to do them the same favor, and one of their wrestlers has to win an NXT championship. So if Masha Slamovich beats Jacy Jayne and Masha Slamovich becomes the NXT Women's Champion, that'd be a good trade-off, because in order for this partnership to work, one person from each company has to win someone else's belt. But like I said, but kudos to Jacy Jayne and Fatal Influence, and we'll roll it on to the next one. Next up, we had women's tag team action, and that confused me, because when they first announced, like, oh, we're gonna do a women's tag team match for the women's tag team championships, the first thing that popped in my mind was you fired all the tag teams. Like, you got rid of the unholy union, you broke up the Meta Girls. I'm like, there are no tag teams, so they had to put the Kabuki Warriors back together. Roxanne ended up taking Liv's place, you know, in the Judgment Day for the Women's Tag Team Championship. They added a makeshift team of Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair, and they forced Sol Ruca and Zara down our throat. And honestly, Sol Ruca and Zara didn't need to be here. You know, there were tag teams, there were legitimate women's tag teams in NXT that should have been here. Like, if anything, like Michin and B-Fab, they're not a real team, but at least they're trying to be, like, to be a real team. But we ended up getting stuck with Sol Ruca and Zara. And we didn't even get a standoff between Raquel and Zara, which is crazy to me. Because, like, if they're the two powerhouses of the whole match, why did we not get the face-to-face standoff between the two of them? But in the end, it was they said it was a good match. The crowd was actually, very live. The crowd cheered for Charlotte Flair. Like they cheered for Charlotte Flair, which was legitimately shocking and surprising. And in the end, they basically, like Roxanne, the Judgment Day prevailed. And kudos to that too, because I just realized Roxanne Perez and Raquel Rodriguez, is this like the first? Well, no, I guess no. Well, the Bellas were never tag team champions. Are they the first like Latina like women's tag team champions? And if so, that's actually pretty damn cool. Because I was rooting for them. I was rooting for Roxanne and Raquel, and a little R&R it was because thanks to the Tejada bomb on Sol Ruca, the one trick pony, Raquel Rodriguez and Roxanne Perez, they retain the women's tag team championships. So now Alexa and Charlotte need to be split up because they're not a real team. Zara needs to actually fight her own people and stop sniffing around Sol Ruca like a lovesick puppy. Break that up. And it's like, let's bring in some actual tag teams now. I'm fine, like I said, I'm fine with Michin and B-Fab. If the Kabuki Warriors are back, that's fine too. But I'm like, for the love of God, can we get some actual women's tag teams like in the mix? But it was still a good match. Like I said, the only disappointing thing about the match was that Zara and Raquel didn't get a standoff. But kudos to the Judgment Day, who's still your women's tag team champions. Next up, it was plastic time. The Plastic Princess, Tiffany Stratton versus Trish Stratus for the WWE Women's Championship. And honestly, I didn't care. Like, there was no build to this. She asked Trish, if she wanted the match. And it came across as her asking Trish if she wanted the match because she felt like Trish would be an easy victory. Trish carried that match, a lot better than Tiffany did, and she's like fucking 50. So, I mean, but yeah, it was pretty much basic. Trish had the match, she hit the moonsault, and then she pinned her. I can't wait for the Tiffany Stratton thing to be over. I really can't, because there's just nothing exciting about her. Like, everything about her is fake, and she's still not the best in the ring. She got pushed way too quickly, and there was a long line of other women that were a lot better than her at the time when she got the call up and she got the push. But the only reason why she got that call up and she got that push and why she got pushed to the moon is because she has, we'll just say, a certain look that garnishes attention, which is sad because that shouldn't overtake talent. But, kudos to Trish Stratus. Trish Stratus did the damn thing. And I can't wait till SummerSlam for Jade Cargill to take that belt off Tiffany Stratton. And I'm also happy that it seems like the Jade Naomi match is going to, I mean, it's not going to main event. Like, Rhea Ripley is going to be the main event, but at least like the Naomi Jade match was higher on the card than this particular match, because this match really wasn't special at all. But like I said, congratulations to Trish Stratus for for a performance of still doing the damn thing for the women, and we're moving on. Naomi versus Jade Cargill, no holds barred. Bianca Belair, special guest referee. And these two women beat the shit out. Like, normally I'm not a huge fan of like the garbage matches and like the furniture and everything. Like, I'm normally not a fan of all that, but this was done in a very realistic way. Like, the way they sold everything and the way they set things up, they weren't just doing like big spots to each other and then the other person was just popping back up like nothing happened. They actually sold it, and they sold like Jay getting her ass whooped like the entire time. They went through a couple of tables. They were using chains and everything, and it wasn't a lot of furs. Like, they weren't like lighting like tables on fire, but it was actually done very well. I thought Naomi was gonna win this shit. I thought Naomi was gonna win it. A lot of people think there's a Bianca heel turn coming, but no, it's too soon for that. Right out the gate, the three of them, Bianca, Jade, and Naomi, they were the three dressed best women on the entire pay-per-view, on the entire card. But in the end, like, there was a moment where Naomi had set up a table, and then I guess she was going to come off the top rope and like crash through Jade on the table, but Jade got up, she hit her with a chair, and then she got on the top rope. And then she did the Jaded off the top rope through the table and put her through the table. Naomi got busted open. Like, she was bleeding. And she did like the craziest shit because she was busted open. She was bleeding somewhere on her face. And then when she realized she was bleeding, she wiped her nose with Jade Cargill's hair. And I was like, what the? It's like, oh my God. So the commitment to the character, the commitment to the character is off the charts. And I don't even know where she got busted open. I don't know where she she was bleeding, but definitely the standout match of the night. It was better than the Tiffany Stratton match, so it should have gone. It should have gone in the place that it went to. kudos to both of them. It's just a shame that when Jade beats Tiffany Stratton at SummerSlam to win the Women's Championship, Naomi's going to cash in on her, and then we're going to be right back in Big Three territory with with the WWE Women's Championship between Bianca, Naomi, and Jade. But kudos to both women. Like I said, match of the night, so far, and I think it will, because the Battle Royal is probably not going to be better than that, and the Women's World Title's not going to be better than that. So, like I said, kudos to both of them. I look forward to seeing how this storyline progresses. Like I said, Bianca, she didn't turn heel or face. She's still in the middle with it, and we'll see what happens when her finger heals and she comes back to SmackDown. So next up is what Wade Barrett called the greatest Battle Royal of all time, and I got to kind of agree with him. And it wasn't a surprise. I will say this, kudos to them for letting every woman have an entrance. For whatever reason, when Zelina Vega came out, she looked pissed. She didn't shake any hands. She didn't smile. And I was just like, is she still salty over losing the U.S. title, or is this a heel turn that I didn't see coming? She looked like somebody said something she didn't like before she came out the curtain. But I think it was just her playing into the character of losing the United States Women's Championship, because her eyes were glued to Julia the entire time. And as soon as the bell rang, she was on Julia's ass. And I said Stephanie was going to win. It was obvious. Like, it's a pay-per-view in France. Stephanie Vaquer, she's the new, she's the new girl that got called up. Like she's the new hot thing that they're pushing. So to have her in overseas country fighting for the heavyweight championship makes perfect sense, because it's going to be against Rhea Ripley, because obviously Rhea Ripley, is going to beat Io Sky. But I thought it was going to come down to Stephanie and Nikki Bella. But no, because we're in Atlanta, they let the hometown girl get a little shine. They let Lash Legend be one of the final two. Kalani Jordan got the Kofi Kingston spot. Jada Parker should have did more. There wasn't a black person, wasn't the first one eliminated. So this was a very enjoyable battle royal. Like, this was an extremely enjoyable battle royal. And then in the end, Stephanie hit the devil's kiss, which I like to call the pound cake. She hit the devil's kiss and then was able to get Lash Legend out of the ring. So Stephanie Vaquer, she's the winner of the battle royal, and she will go on to Paris, France, vive la France, to face Rhea Ripley for the women's world heavyweight championship. Kudos to them, everybody involved. NXT is here. Like, I wish an NXT girl would have won, because it would have instantly made them a new star. But like I said, I have no problem with Stephanie Vaquer winning as well, because she just got called up and she needs to do something interesting in order, to get her name out there, in order to be considered like a top player. So I said, looking forward to the match at the France pay-per-view, and we're moving on to the main event. Okay, they got me. They got me. I was the one saying for a long time that Jade was going to beat Tiffany. Naomi was going to cash in on Jade. Naomi was then going to fight Bianca, and then we were going to get a triple threat between the big three for the title. Apparently I was wrong, and I can admit that. So basically, Rhea Ripley in the main event fought Io Sky for the Women's World Championship. And they had an awesome match. And I even changed my pick, because I said earlier in the review, I said that it was a foregone conclusion that Rhea Ripley was going to win. And then when Stephanie won the Battle Royal, because Stephanie's a Raw superstar, then I started thinking, I was like, well, if Rhea wins the belt, she's not going to lose it to Stephanie Vaquer that quickly. And then why would they beat Stephanie if they're trying to make her into a star? So then I was like, well, maybe Io's going to retain the championship, and then Io's going to fight Stephanie for the belt, and then Stephanie's going to win at the pay-per-view. Then all of a sudden, Naomi's theme music hit, and I was like, oh, shit. So when both Rhea and Io were basically down for the count, Naomi showed up. She cashed in the Money in the Bank. She busted him over the head with the briefcase. And Naomi is the new Women's World Heavyweight Champion. And she was telling everybody to proceed with caution, and proceed we should have. Oh man, yeah, I'm happy. So this was a good show. I don't know what happens now, because that's what's crazy about it. This was a really good show. So does she fights Stephanie Vaquer, I guess, at in France, and I don't think she's gonna lose. Like, I don't think she's gonna lose to Stephanie in France. So she might be women's world champion for a while. Or does Stephanie take her championship opportunity, and does Stephanie Vaquer fight Tiffany Stratton? Because they never really said if it was brand specific or if you can choose the champion. Stephanie Vaquer might actually pick Tiffany Stratton now. I don't know. Like, well, no, because Tiffany, she gonna lose to Jade. She definitely gonna lose to Jade. But I'm shocked. So thank you, Triple H. Thank you, Triple H. Naomi is the new women's world champion. I'm loving this shit. Viva. I love me the wrestling, and thank you for tuning in. I'm pleasantly surprised, and this was the greatest ending to this wrestling weekend. And everybody thought that Evolution was going to be the low point of the entire show. It actually ended up being the high point of the entire show with, with everything that went on today. So I'm happy. Share your questions, comments, and concerns. What did you think? Women's Evolution was a 10. Women's Evolution was a straight up 10, a 10 out of 10. I can't complain. I ain't got nothing to say. Like I said, like black people on top. So it is what it is. Let me know what you thought about Women's Evolution. Let me know what you thought about the pay-per-view. Are you happy? Are you angry? Are you indifferent? What happens now with all these storylines? And let's continue to talk about it. Check me out on Instagram. Check me out on X. Check me out on TikTok and YouTube, where you can leave your questions, comments, and concerns. Because, like I said, I'm over the moon. I'm over the moon, Salt, with this whole thing. And this is why we love wrestling. Like this moment right here, this is what makes all the frustration worth it. When you see your favorites not getting victories, when you see your favorites like losing and everything, it's moments like this that make it worth it. And this is why we love this shit. So I love it, and I'm here for it along with the rest of you guys. So thank you for tuning in. Until next time, as we review some more of the wrestling, Women's Evolution is a 10. And until then, until Monday Night Raw, we're out this